Okay, here we are in Act 2, Scene 3. We're at the Friar Lawrence's cell. If you remember from the end of Act 2, Romeo says he's planning to go to the friar's cell in order to arrange his marriage to Juliet. So here we are. Notice that when it says enter Friar Lawrence, it's just Friar Lawrence. He's carrying a basket. So we have Friar Lawrence entering by himself. And he's going to make, as you can see, kind of an extended long speech. So a nice extended long speech spoken by one person alone on the stage. If you remember, this is what we call a soliloquy. Okay, so Friar Lawrence, he starts with, "The gray-eyed morn smiles on the frowning night, checkering the eastern clouds with streaks of light, and flecked darkness like a drunkard reels from forth day's path, and Titan's fiery wheels, now ere the sun advance his burning eye, the day to cheer and night's dank dew to dry." Okay, so essentially what he has described in this section here is he's made kind of a simile saying that darkness, well actually he's personifying darkness, and he's saying that darkness is stumbling out of the sun's path like a drunkard. Okay, so making a comparison there to a person, a drunkard. Titan's fiery wheels, that refers to the chariot of Apollo, god of the sun. So you can kind of have this image of Apollo pulling the chariot and pulling the sun into the day, because that's in Greek mythology, that's kind of how it works. And the darkness is kind of stumbling out of his way. So it's all very figurative here. Lovely language. Next, he says, "I must fill up this osier cage of ours," that's a basket, "with baleful weeds and precious juiced flowers. The earth that's nature's mother is her tomb. What is her burying grave? That is her womb. And from her womb, children of diverse kind, we, sucking on her natural bosom, find many for many virtues excellent." Okay, so here, where he's collecting both both baleful weeds and precious juiced flowers, so medicinal flowers. Okay, so we've got this image of kind of bad over here, and good. Okay, it says the earth that's nature's mother is her tomb. What is her burying grave? That is her womb. Tomb, again, that's kind of like a negative, right? Negative or bad. And womb representing life. So we've got death, tomb, and life, so positives and negatives here. That's important because when we're trying to understand like the main idea of this speech or of this soliloquy, that's part of it. So keep that in mind. "Many for many virtues excellent, none but for some, and yet all different. Oh, mickle or great or a lot is the powerful grace that lies in herbs, plants, stones, and their true qualities. For not so vile that on the earth doth live, but to the earth some special good doth give." Okay, so is it true that medicinal plants offer good things? Yeah. "Nor aught so good but strained that from that fair use revolts from true birth, stumbling on abuse." Okay, so some plants that start out as good can actually have negative effects as well. They can also be used for bad, or they can have bad effects as well, right? Turning away from its original purpose, revolting from true birth. "Virtue itself turns vice, so good turns bad, being misapplied." Okay, and vice sometimes by action dignified within the infant rind. And vice sometimes by action dignified, and vice sometimes turns dignified good. So we've got good turning bad, and bad turning good. Okay? "Within the infant rind of this small flower, poison hath residence and medicine power." Okay? So this small flower has both poison and medicine within it. Okay, there's kind of a duality within this flower. "For this, being smelt, with that part cheers each part." Meaning if you were to smell that flower, you'd have a good reaction to it because it's a good smell. "But being tasted, slays all senses with the heart." Okay, so essentially what we're saying is this flower in smell, it's a good thing, but in taste, it can actually kill you. Okay, so this one flower can be both good to our senses and very, very bad and dangerous to our senses. Two such supposed kings encamp them still, in man as well as herbs. So, he says, the same idea kind of applies to man as well as herbs. Grace and rude will, and where the worser is predominant, full soon the canker death eats up that plant. Okay, so overall, essentially in this soliloquy, the friar is talking about how good things in nature can turn bad and how bad things in nature can sometimes actually be good. Kind of like that flower, depending on what you do with it, depending on how you proceed forward, that can either be a good situation or a bad situation. Okay, that could be really significant in the overall message of the play because we know that love is a really good and beautiful thing. And Romeo and Juliet, the fact that they love each other and the fact that they're from rival families and could unite those families, that's a good thing. But we also know how the play ends, and we know that it ultimately does not end well. Okay? Now it says, enter Romeo. Good morrow, father. Friar Lawrence, Benedicite, what early tongue so sweet saluteth me? Young son, it argues a distempered head, so soon to bid good morrow to thy bed. So essentially he says, hey, you're a young guy, you should be asleep. The fact that you're awake tells me that something is actually wrong. Care keeps his watch in every old man's eye, and where he lodges, sleep will never lie. But where unbruised youth with unstuffed brain doth couch his limbs, their golden sleep doth reign. Meaning, I'm old, so it makes sense that I'm up early, but you're young and you're carefree. You should be asleep, right, at this time of day. Therefore, thy earliness doth me assure thou art uproused by some distemperature. Meaning, something's got to be wrong with you, the fact that you're up this early. Or if not so, then here I hit it right. Our Romeo hath not been in bed tonight. Okay, meaning, did you even go to sleep? Romeo, that last is true. The sweeter rest was mine. Okay, what does that make it sound like happened? He said, I didn't go to sleep last night. In fact, I had a sweeter rest. Think about what that kind of implies or what that makes it sound like. And Friar Lawrence catches on. He's like, God pardon sin, wast thou with Rosaline? Remember, Friar Lawrence doesn't realize that Romeo's already over Rosaline, and he makes the assumption, were you with a girl? Is that the sweeter rest that you had? Romeo, with Rosaline, my ghostly father? No, I have forgot that name and that name's woe. Friar Lawrence, oh, that's good, my son. But where hast thou been then? Romeo, I'll tell thee ere thou ask it me again. I have been feasting with mine enemy, where on a sudden one hath wounded me. That's by me wounded. Both are remedies within thy help and holy physic lies. I bear no hatred, blessed man, for lo, my intercession likewise steads my foe. Okay, let's go through this real quick. He says, I was feasting with my enemy, and one hath wounded me that's by me wounded, meaning I fell in love with someone, she wounded me, but I wounded her back, meaning she's in love with me too. And both are remedies, meaning the cure to this situation lies with you, friar. I bear no hatred, blessed man, for lo, my intercession likewise steads my foe. So the good news is, friar, your help is actually going to help me and my enemy. So it's kind of like a win-win-win situation. Friar Lawrence, be plain, good son, and homely in thy drift. Riddling confession finds but riddling shrift. Romeo, then plainly know my heart's dear love is set on the fair daughter of rich Capulet. As mine on hers, so hers is set on mine, and all combined, save what thou must combine by holy marriage. Meaning we are so in love, we are united in every way, except by holy marriage. When and where and how we met, we wooed and made exchange of vow. I'll tell thee as we pass, but this I pray, that thou consent to marry us today. So Romeo is making his request. Please marry us today. Remember, by the way, it's been maybe about 24 hours since the play has started. Okay? Notice Friar Lawrence's response. I love this. Holy St. Francis, what a change is here. Meaning, are you serious, Romeo? You're asking me to marry you to your enemy's daughter? Is Rosaline, whom thou didst love so dear, so soon forsaken? Young men's love then lies not truly in their hearts, but in their eyes. Meaning, what does that say about how deeply you loved Rosaline, right? Did you actually love Rosaline? Because if you were willing to forsake your love for Rosaline so quickly, that kind of reflects a shallow level of love there. Jesu Maria, what a deal of brine hath washed thy sallow cheeks for Rosaline. Meaning, look, dude, you cried so many tears over Rosaline, okay? The tears on the cheeks. We've had to wash off your cheeks because of your tears for Rosaline. How much salt water thrown away in waste to season love that of it doth not taste. Meaning, dude, you've got to be kidding me here, okay? The sun not yet thy sighs from heaven clears, thy old groans ring yet in my ancient ears. Lo, here upon thy cheek the stain doth sit of an old tear that is not washed off yet. Meaning, look, you still have stains from your previous tears over Rosaline. If ever thou wast thyself and these woes thine, thou and these woes were all for Rosaline. And art thou changed? Pronounce this sentence then. Women may fall when there is no strength in men. Meaning, you have no consistency and no stability. How are you going to expect your future wife to have any sort of sense of stability or consistency as well? Romeo, thou chidest me oft for loving Rosaline. I mean, you told me that I was a dum-dum for loving Rosaline. And Friar Lawrence says, for doting, not for loving, pupil mine. Meaning, I only said all of those things telling you you should forget about Rosaline because I knew that your love wasn't all that authentic. Romeo, and baits me to bury love. You told me to forget about her. Friar Lawrence, not in a grave to lay one in, another out to have. Meaning, I didn't tell you to forget about Rosaline just so you can jump into a new kind of infatuation with another girl. Romeo, I pray thee, chide not. She whom I love now doth grace for grace and love for love allow. The other did not so. Meaning, look, Rosaline didn't love me back. Juliet does. So you should be happy for me. Friar Lawrence, talking about Rosaline, says, oh, she knew well thy love did read by rote and could not spell. Meaning, Rosaline was actually pretty smart because she could tell that your love was not genuine. She could tell that you only thought you were in love but didn't really know what it meant. But come, young waverer, come go with me. In one respect, I'll thy assistant be. For this alliance may so happy prove to turn your household's rancor to pure love. Okay, so ultimately, Friar does actually agree, okay, I will marry you and Juliet. Why? Because, like he says, this alliance, this marriage may turn your household's rancor into pure love. Meaning, he thinks that, hey, maybe if I do unite the families, even secretively, okay, even if I do unite Romeo and Juliet in marriage, maybe that will actually bring both families together, right? Maybe I will help end this long-standing feud by bringing the children of the families together. There's irony there because we actually know that he's both right and wrong at the same time, right? The parents do ultimately bury their strife. We know that because of the prologue. But it is not necessarily their marriage that ends the feud. It's actually their deaths that end the feud. So in some ways he is right, in some ways he is wrong, and we know that as an audience. Romeo, oh, let us hence. I stand on sudden haste. I mean, let's go. I'm so excited. Let's just move. Let's go. Friar Lawrence, oh, wisely and slow. They stumble that run fast. Okay? One of Romeo and Juliet's major character flaws is that they're impatient, that they move too quickly. And so Friar Lawrence gives them a warning. Hey, slow down. They stumble that run fast. And that stumbling is kind of a foreshadowing for what ultimately happens at the end of the play. So you move too fast, you stumble. And that concludes Act 2, Scene 3.